In Mozambique, Africa, a bald man was once again killed and beheaded. The reason is a superstition that the heads of bald men are full of gold, and some locals believe this. Albanians flee to Italy in March 1991. Western Europe learned what a mass influx of refugees was for the first time in many years. At that time, more than 20,000 Albanians unexpectedly arrived at the Italian port of Brindisi. Adolf Hitler accepts birthday congratulations from youngsters of the Hitler Youth. April 20th, 1945, Germany. 10 days later, Hitler would be gone after realizing the war was lost. A crowd of white civilized Americans mocking two participants in the Black Civil Rights Movement, 1965. Midwives show newborn triplets to their father, who fainted from emotion. New York, 1946. Owen Baggett, the pilot who shot down an enemy plane with a pistol by shooting the pilot in the head while ejecting via parachute. At the start of the Russo-Japanese War, caricatures of a crying Japanese man being whipped by a Cossack were popular in Russia, Russian Empire, 1904. Eventually, Russia lost the war, suffering massive losses. Emperor Nicholas II blesses Russian officers going to the Russo-Japanese War, 1904. Russia lost this war dramatically and suffered enormous losses. Aloysia Feit, Hitler's cousin. She ended up in a mental asylum with psychosis. Later, she was sent to a gas chamber as a mentally ill person. According to Nazi ideology, the extermination of mentally ill individuals was meant to improve the mental health of the nation. The dogs that survived the Titanic sinking. There were 12 dogs on board, but only 3 survived. A clash between women and police in South Africa, 1962. The women destroyed and burned a brewery to protest police bans on home alcohol brewing. Prisoners in stocks and an executioner with a knife, 1899, Persia. This is exactly how toilets were designed in the Middle Ages. At 13, Louis Vuitton left his native village and walked to Paris in search of a better life. His journey, over 450 kilometers, was made on foot and alone after his stepfather kicked him out. A heart-wrenching photo of 2 pilgrims walking along the Siroki River towards the famous Sarov Monastery. A man without legs is pulling along a blind companion with a rope. Russian Empire, 1903. Paul Tibbets, the man who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, 1996. Back in the 15th century, moose were used as mounts in the Swedish army. Meanwhile, in Russia, a decree banned riding moose in cities because they kept knocking people over. A woman cries at the gates of the Auschwitz concentration camp, 1981. King George V's 10-day royal hunting expedition in Nepal. Numerous tigers, rhinoceros, bears, leopards, deer, boar, porcupines, and birds were killed with a massive 12,000 crew in 1911. Hundreds of ships abandoned in San Francisco Bay. Since 1848, thousands of people rushed to California's gold fields hoping to get rich quickly. Parts of many ships were later used to build houses in San Francisco. A World War II veteran and participant in the storming of Berlin at the grave of his fellow soldier, May 9, 1980. Uzbek schoolgirls in a math class, Tashkent, 1921. During the Franco-Prussian War, when the Germans besieged Paris in 1870 for 5 months, food shortages quickly arose in the city. Common products ran out, and Parisians began eating horse meat, then cats, dogs, and rats. When that meat was also exhausted, chefs began purchasing animals from zoos. After antelopes, camels, and zebras, the turn came for the 2 Parisian elephants, Castor and Pollux. By comparison, during the more than 2-year blockade of Leningrad, its residents did not touch any animals from the zoos. A couple at a fair in Mexico, 1940. A few slogans from Richard Nixon's presidential campaign. The DeLorean DMC-12 and the filming crew of the movie Back to the Future, USA, 1985. John Snow, an English doctor from the 19th century who single-handedly uncovered the causes of the cholera epidemic, but other doctors did not believe in his theories. Such types of sleeping arrangements were especially popular in the UK in the 17th century. They were used for privacy and protection from insects and animals that lived in the house. Pets were not trained, and there were cases of attacks on sleeping people at night. These sleeping cabinets protected them and also kept the sleepers warmer. The Spanish flu killed more people than World War I. An orphan German boy trades his father's Iron Cross for cigarettes. Berlin, 1945. The stump of a giant cedar used as a post office. USA, Washington State, late 19th century. Dogs that survived the Titanic disaster. Of the 12 dogs on board, only 3 survived, 1912. English language sign, "Here was Forge," installed at the ruins of the city of Forges-les-Eaux, almost completely destroyed during World War I, France, 1917. Martin Luther King Jr. is arrested for demanding service at a whites-only restaurant, Florida, USA, 1964. A priest reads prayers over the bodies of Titanic victims aboard a British ship, North Atlantic, 1912. Albanians storm the cargo ship Vlora, demanding to be taken to neighboring Italy, Albania, August 1991. Men's anti-masturbation ring, 19th century, used in psychiatric clinics and sometimes at home. Aftermath of the tsunami in Severokurilsk, 1952. A pipe smoke and endurance contest at Yale University, 1959, USA. Before releasing a new batch of cigarettes, the manufacturer must ensure they don't kill too quickly. They test cigarettes on those who have no legal rights. As a rule, this leads to an agonizing death. A 25-year-old woman at the grave of her brother, who served in the U.S. Army in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2013. People fight for books. Plovdiv, Bulgaria, 1980. International Women's Day was born as a day representing women's fight for their rights in a man's world. The first declarations of women's rights appeared in the 18th century. In the 19th century, women gained more rights but were still considered property of men. By the early 20th century, women were already holding rallies for equality and soon proposed the establishment of a unified International Women's Day. Munduruku warriors observed the work of the Bureau of Indian Affairs staff in Brasilia, 2013. The creators of the first VCR, video cassette recorder, with their VCR 1956, Two childhood friends meet during a strike. One is a striker, the other is a police officer. France, 1972. A historic moment. The first female tractor driver in Uzbekistan, 1923. A message on a wall. Lord, if I die young, send me to heaven because I've already been to hell. Yugoslavian war period, 90s. In 1915, a Mexican student named Wenceslao Mogiel survived 9 gunshot wounds during a firing squad execution in the Revolution. At night, he crawled to a church where he received help. Hippies protest against a new law banning people from living in cars, 1969. An Iraqi family fleeing the war, Iraq, 2003. In 1947 in New York, the body of Homer Collier, who had starved to death, was found in an apartment blocked by 100 tons of junk, underneath which his paralyzed brother was also discovered. Man versus machine. African runner Matthias Kanda from southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, competed against a steam train during his training and never lost in a race, 1968. Those saved by Oskar Schindler and their children at his grave in the Catholic cemetery on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, 1993. Stalin and Hitler might have met in Austria long before their political careers. In 1913, while in Vienna, the fugitive revolutionary Stalin loved to stroll the streets where the young artist Hitler was selling his paintings. An emaciated former prisoner of Buchenwald concentration camp drinks from a metal bowl shortly after the camp's liberation. April 1945. A minute before execution, the harsh realities of war and inhumanity, the British lined up Muslims of India for refusing to fight against the Ottoman Empire, World War I, 1914. The last veterans and witnesses of the 1812 war between the Russians and Napoleon Bonaparte. At the centennial celebration of the Battle of Borodino, Russian Empire, 1912. A harsh yet convincing form of punishment for violating military discipline was used on a Soviet guard ship in 1991. Germany wins on all fronts. Inscription on the Eiffel Tower during the occupation. One of the 1.5 million victims executed in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge regime just for being well-educated, 1978. The Hollywood sign was created in 1923, but not as a symbol of the Dream Factory. It was simply advertising for new residential areas in Los Angeles, and the sign was originally longer, Hollywoodland. It was supposed to last about a year and a half, but due to the booming film industry in Hollywood, they decided to keep it. The Holocaust Memorial in Budapest. At this location, Jews were ordered to remove their shoes before they were shot into the Danube River. The palms of a father rest on the glass of a bus, taking his wife and son to safety from besieged Sarajevo during the Bosnian War, November 10, 1992. A symbolic London photo from 1938. A family heads to the pool in swimsuits and gas masks, reflecting the tense anticipation of war and chemical attacks. Small, large, and ugly people who were exhibited as human curiosities to the paying public in the United States, 1932. Jacques Plante became the first goaltender in hockey history to play wearing a mask, 1959. This cage, known as a Mort safe, appeared in 18th century Scotland. Medical students were digging up graves for practice, so families installed these heavy iron grates to protect their deceased relatives. This is a room full of participants in the 1980 Space Invaders World Championship. Soviet border guards before execution, Brest, World War II, 1941. Mass hysteria in England during World War II. The belief that Germans would use chemical weapons during bombings. The government distributed over 38 million gas masks to civilians. Creepy dental x-rays from the past. The medicine of the past could surprise you. Just look at this dental treatment. The steam vibrator. This is the world's first steam-powered vibrator, designed by American doctor George Taylor in 1869. Dr. Taylor used it to treat female hysteria. The 1,000-Yard Stare, USMC Private. Theodore J. Miller is helped aboard a ship after intense combat on Eniwetok Atoll. Miller was killed in action a month later, 1944. One of the oldest pieces of evidence of tattoos in history. A Scythian deer tattoo on the mummy of the Altai princess, aged 2,500 years. Margaret Hamilton, lead NASA software engineer for the Apollo program, stands next to the handwritten code that took humanity to the moon in 1969. Schoolboy Andrei Novikov signals an air raid alarm, USSR, World War II. Hiroshima before and after the explosion. Wenceslao Miguel, a prisoner. During the Mexican Revolution, sentenced to death by firing squad, Miguel was shot 9 times, all hitting their mark, but he survived, escaped, and lived for many more years. Watching television in a movie theater in the city of Carpi, Italy, 1956. Chelyabinsk City, Russian Empire, 1913. The Nushu alphabet, invented by women in a province of southern China for communication among themselves. As they were denied access even to primary education, it was used until 1912. A former German soldier, returned from captivity, reads notices on a tree about the search for relatives. Dresden, 1946. An American cartoon from 1964, Russia and China dig a grave for the USA. The FBI feared that an intimate encounter between Marilyn Monroe and John F. Kennedy was captured on a secret tape. While the footage has never been made public and the FBI denies JFK's presence, rumors of its existence have persisted for decades. Prohibition, men pouring out whiskey, USA, 1931. California hunter Seth Kinman sits in a chair made of a grizzly bear that he gifted to President Lincoln. Even if you're Winston Churchill, you can't just walk past a kitten. London, 1952. Alcatraz Prison, where the most dangerous American criminals were held, operated until 1963 and was the only federal prison at the time where inmates had access to warm showers. The administration decided that prisoners accustomed to comfort would be less likely to attempt to escape by swimming across the cold San Francisco Bay. The fearless Bobby Leach performed a large number of life-threatening stunts. For example, in 1911, he crossed Niagara Falls by tumbling over it in a barrel. Leach died in 1926 after slipping on an orange peel. World's largest woman and smallest man, July 1922. Nellie Lane weighed 641 pounds. Clarence Howerton weighed 2 pounds at age 9. Cotton candy, Pittsburgh, 1940s. The Great Ohio River flood of January 1937 submerged 70% of Louisville, rendering thousands homeless. Yet, one surreal photograph remains from the devastation: a horse lodged high in a tree. After a 7-day strike, Woolworth store employees in Detroit celebrate their victory. They managed to raise wages by 20%, reduce working hours to 40 hours a week, and receive overtime pay. 1937. Racist residents beat and expel black journalist Alex Wilson from their town. Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957. 80-year-old cannibal Tom, the last cannibal of Fiji Island, 1905. A former slave holds a rod that was used by planters to call slaves, 1939. HMS Hermione's shipcat, Convoy, had his own hammock. He died with 87 crew members when the ship was torpedoed on June 16, 1942. Fashion for boldly protruding female breasts in the 1940s. In 1939, the British police deported Jews who had left Czechoslovakia after its occupation by Nazi Germany. Jews were denied residence in the UK due to incorrect documentation. This photograph, which you see on your screen, later became known as deportation to death. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.